there is this seems to be an entirely irrational hatred of Trump, a Trump derangement syndrome. Andrew, I mean, what do you think that shows? I mean, regardless of the pandemic, if you like, I mean, ongoing, it is not just about hating someone's politics, is it?
Oh, no, it's not. And remember that there was Bush derangement syndrome before this. Trump has amped it up because of his personality and his brusqueness. But John is absolutely right. You know, the division in this country is no longer up until the 1970s and into the 1980s. The division in this country used to be between people saying, yes, we love our Constitution and our tradition, but we would like a little bit more of a welfare state, a safety net to maintain people in times of trouble. That was a rational debate. We are no longer in that debate. We are now in the debate whether the Constitution should be operational at all. This week, Harvard law professor and a law professor from, I think, the University of Arizona published an article in the Atlantic saying that the Chinese have been right, that censorship and surveillance is absolutely necessary. And so we're really dealing with people who have lost the plot of America altogether. And as I see it, what they had this beautiful vision of globalism in which the elites were going to run the world in their expertise. They were going to make a lot of money in their expertise, and they were going to pay the rest of us a universal income to sort of make us go away, that our lives didn't have to have dignity or purpose or meaning. We just needed some cash in our pockets, and we'd be quiet while robots did all the work, and they just sat around and thought great thoughts and basically invented the technology of the future. Trump has very much, with his nationalism and his simple instinct for the country, his instinct of love of country and his instinct of love of the traditions of the country, he has just thrown a wrench in that operation. And you hear people talking about our dislike of elites and experts as if there was something wrong with that, and as if elites and experts had done such a great job. I mean, America has been in a war for 20 years in Afghanistan, and that was the elites and experts got us into that. We had for 3 years, our life expectancy was dropping because people were killing themselves at such a high rate that it was overtaking whatever medical advances there were. And that was simply despair because all of our jobs had been farmed out to China and other places, and people were just dying in the middle of the country from meth addiction and other forms of despair. Something was terribly, terribly wrong that caused the people to rise up and send Trump to the White House, which they only just barely did. And not once have any of the elites, any of the experts, including some of the elites on the right, not once has anyone said, what are they trying to tell us here? What have we done wrong? Is there some other voice that should be included? Donald Trump is a symptom. He is not the cause of this division. He is the people who feel that they have not been heard, that their lives have been taken away, that their voices have been taken away, that they are fired from their jobs for saying that men can be different from women. They're fired from their jobs for remarks they may have made personally on Facebook. They have lost their rights to be themselves and to live their individual lives. And Trump was basically a cri de coeur, just a cry to be listened to give somebody a voice that would speak for those people. And Trump has done that, and that's what they hate him for. They hate him because he is a bowling ball that has rolled down into their perfect global vision and just knocked it askew.
Let me say, well, it seems to me that we are all sitting around this table members of the elites or an elite, but we are traitors to our class, and we recognize, since we're in that class, that experts differ. That if you got a good doctor saying you were going to die on Thursday, you'd ask for a second opinion. And I think that that's true across the system. And if you have a problem like Brexit, membership of the EU, that's composed of so many different expertises, so to speak, that you can't possibly be an expert on it. Now, what's the problem we have? I would put it this way, responding to Andrew. The elites managed to solve a problem which had long puzzled many of them, and that is, how do you get rid of democracy without getting rid of democracy? And the answer is you transfer more and more political decisions, which you declare to be terribly important, from democratic institutions accountable to the voters to non-democratic institutions accountable to themselves, or to a general amorphous atmosphere of progressivism. And that's the problem. They carried that out, and the rest of us kind of couldn't quite work out what was going on. How come more and more times we complained about something, the politicians, the ministers, and the civil servants would say, I'm afraid there is nothing we can do that. In Britain, they'd say, well, that was a European decision. We had to accept it. In America, they'd say, well, that was the decision of the Supreme Court. That's all we can do. We must go along with it. We can't possibly, in a sense, change the law. Now, we didn't understand how this had happened, but we knew something was wrong. Trump came along and he articulated these feelings, but he didn't articulate them very well, because that's not the kind of thing he does. What he does is express powerfully emotions which people feel but don't quite make the case. It's up to, therefore, intellectuals, and they've come forward in quite large numbers to begin to articulate in Britain and America, in Brexit and other places in Central Europe, to articulate the grievances of people who knew they were being cheated but couldn't work out how the three-card trick had been played on them.